Are you not getting 60 FPS in Devil May Cry? Is it not very smooth? Is your graphics card apparently broken? Because the game is pretty well optimized, as we're going to see, with some really high frame rates on mid to low old cards. So basically what we have here is we have some benchmarking videos, but we are checking out Devil May Cry 5 mostly on DX12. We'll have a DX11 test, but GeForce 419.67 drivers. Here are the 4 graphics cards we're testing. The cards are overclocked, factory overclocked between 3 and 5% already, and then we added another 8% to the base clock as well as the memory, and then only 5% on the 2060. A little bit of issues there. Here are the prices, and let's jump into the 1080p Ultra benchmarks. Here are some of the settings that we're going to look at. So basically TAA and HBAO plus, rolling out the really changes, and then everything set to Ultra. And then everything is recorded with Shadowplay. We did a second set because Shadowplay, you lose about 3% performance. So on screen we'll see the graphics card clocks and everything, but we'll actually have a graph right here, which we'll go into now. And basically we're going to see some performance. So we did the first boss, and that is showing the cutscenes, a 30-second start of the cutscene, and then 30-second fights, and then we kind of average some of the stuff to going together. So the cutscenes were obviously more demanding than the actual game fighting footage, all up close and all the extra effects going on. So that was interesting to see. About 99 FPS on the 1060 card, and again this is overclocked, and then about 93 during the cutscene average FPS. And then here's your 1% lows where it dips down. You might see like, oh, it might feel like a stutter, but it's still pretty good. We're still hitting 74 on the 1% low, so that's good on the 1060. So what we're seeing here is the 1060, we're going to see a 19% increase going up to the 1660. And just backtracking real quick, the 1060, the boost clock was around 1949 megahertz. It boosted up to there, and then 80 Celsius on the temperature, 64% fan curve, and a pretty good FPS, around 99 FPS going on here. So that was good to see. CPU usage 10, 14, pretty low overall CPU usage on a 9900K. Overclocked to 5 gigahertz, so that is 31 watts, not using too much CPU going on there. And that is that. And then we jump up again to the 1660, which is again a 19% performance increase, and we see some performance shots of this at 330 in the behind the scenes footage. And this card is clocking up to 1995 megahertz, so almost 2000 there. And we're seeing 72 Celsius, 71% fan curve, and we're seeing some good FPS again. Was it 118 FPS? And then in the cutscenes it was dropping to about 106, so graphics are more demanding in cutscenes. Pretty interesting. And then we get to now jump up from the 1660 up to the 1660 Ti, which is a 15% increase in frame rate, and we see some performance of this at 630. We'll leave a link for this video if you want to check it out without me talking and check out the actual numbers and see what's going on here. But in the cutscene it boosts around 2010, and then actual fighting it drops it down to the 1980, 1995, and 71 Celsius, so good temperature, 79% fan curve, pretty high on the fan. And then here's your memory clock around 4000. We didn't mention that with the others. Again, this is all DX12. We'll show a DX11 in just a minute. So pretty good performance there. And then we'll jump up for the 1660 Ti, 136 FPS, all the way to the 2060. And this is a 13% increase in frame rate. And we get to see some performance of this at around 10 minutes or so. And the boost clock on the 2060 is around 1935, 81 Celsius, 38% fan curve. And it looks like we're in some menus now. But let's get back to the fighting. And we get to see pretty high 153 FPS, so that's pretty good. CPU's using a little bit more now, 15%, so obviously the GPU is maxed out at 100, so that's obviously your bottleneck. You don't need a really high processor with this Devil May Cry optimized game, so there's that. And that is pretty much your 4 graphics cards. You'll get really high frame rates, 120 FPS on most of them, so that is pretty good for a game on Ultra. You might as well go 1440p or 4K with this title and still get pretty good frame rates. So good job at Capcom. You guys go with gameplay and optimization. So we also have a couple other little benchmarks we can talk about. We did a lot more testing on the 2060, so just for a quick reference, we showed overclocked versus not overclocked. So 153 drops down to 148, and that is a 3% decrease. So we got the card's already factory overclocked, and then we added the extra 5%, so it was another actual 3% in performance. So not too big a deal. It was already overclocked a little bit, and then here's the cutscenes again, a little bit lower FPS there. And then Shadowplay, again, we mentioned that it reduced when you're recording with Shadowplay, the NVIDIA recorder through the encoder, you'll lose a little bit of FPS. We dropped around 3% from, again, 153 down to 148, kind of similar to not overclocked, almost exactly in our average benchmarks. So that was pretty interesting. So again, we also did a separate set for these actual benchmark numbers, whereas the recording, you'll see the 3% difference on the actual video if you check that out. And then DX11, we actually saw a pretty big performance increase. The game runs at DX12, you actually have to change it to DX11, and you can do that by going to the library, the Steam game library, right-clicking on your game. You have to click Properties, and then you will have to click Local Files. The local files tab is the third tab, and then you can browse, and then the config file is the one you want to open, and then you actually have, there's two DX12 files. The one you have to change to DX11, you just change one number from 12 to 11, and that's the target platform equals DirectX 12. The other one you don't have to change, it looks like. That's how a lot of people showed off changing it, so it seemed pretty simple, and you will get a pretty big performance increase, around 10% average FPS, and the lows were actually like a 20% increase. So if you have an older than 1060 series card, like 960 or 760 or something older than that, with less RAM, you'll probably get a pretty big performance increase with this. So that was pretty good if you wanted to try that out. Maybe you might get some issues though with it, so not super sure. But anyways, there's some extra benchmark numbers, so pretty good overall for the 60 series cards, 1060, 1660, and the 2060, all high frame rates in Devil May Cry 5. You won't have to worry about 60 FPS, but if you want to play 120 and get those combos off even better without using that auto assist function, we had a bunch of graphs in the way, it made it easier. That's the only reason. Ha ha ha. Anyways, so you can get some really fast action going on in this fighting game. You might want that higher frame rate. So those are the 4 cards you'll probably be wanting to look at, and pretty good there. And we also have a little bit more Devil May Cry 5 stuff to talk about, because Devil May Cry 5 is awesome, as Lulu says. Awesome info, awesome comment back at you. So we're going to see the Bloody Palace we've known about for a little while, and this is coming April 1st. We have a date for this, and so we found out this a couple days ago, but it's a free update to your Devil May Cry 5 blood and action and demon slaying. So this is pretty good. What we're seeing is fight your ways through floors of enemies and put your skills to the test in this classic DMC game mode. The battles will be fun, will be tough. Not fun, but they might be fun. And making it to the final floor won't be easy. The true devil hunters will be able to show those demons who the real king of hell is. So this looks like a pretty cool update. It's on April 1st, so we'll have to see what that's all about, but should be good either way. Some other little things, cameo system. You may be playing with other online players. Who knows? You could see them in the background. You may be fighting missions with them. Could be a lot of fun. There's also some data mined for the Virgil moveset, so you may or may not be able to play that character. We're not quite sure, but it's in the data files, so we could see it in this update, we could see it in the next update. A lot of people are speculating about being able to play that character, so could be pretty fun in the update Bloody Palace. It could be bloody. It's probably going to be bloody. I'm pretty sure it's bloody, but that's basically all the Devil May Cry 5 benchmarks and extra tidbit of news. So with that, we will have another episode tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific with some more tech and game news, maybe a benchmark, who knows. And we will be signing out. Pew 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 pew.